What's up, y'all? It's their Higher Ed Hot Seat team out here, episode number 3. This week, we're going to be talking about some topics in housing and moving away from your hometown to San Francisco to do school out there. I want to quickly go around the room and do some introductions again. Again, my name is Yasmin Lopez, and I want to do fun facts this week. So, a fun fact about me, I'm a big animal lover. I actually have 3 cats, 3 dogs, and a fish back at home. And so we're a pretty packed house with animals, but I'm a really big animal lover. So I'll move next to Cynthia.
Okay. Hi, I'm Cynthia. A fun fact would be, let's see, a recent one would be that my dog has blue ears right now. So that's a fun fact.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany, and my fun fact is that I'm a huge foodie. I love food, especially like using Yelp. So I'm actually a Yelp elite. So that's really cool, and I get to explore fun food around.
Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Noe. I am the Summer Bridge Coordinator at EOP. My fun fact is that I used to play the accordion for a Mexican band.
Cool. And this week we actually have 2 special guests. And so Dora will have you go first in introducing yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Dora Alicia, but you can call me Dora or Alicia, whichever one you prefer. And I am a sophomore this year trying to get into the nursing program. And a fun fact about me is that I recently begun knitting like crazy. So if you want a scarf, let me know.
And hi, I'm Judy. I currently am a liberal studies major. I've been at SF State for about 2 years now because I transferred over from a community college. A fun fact about me is I've met the Obama family, the Biden family, and the Bush family before.
Yo, that's awesome.
Yo, y'all got some real fun facts today. Okay.
All right, cool. I'm glad that everyone's here today. And again, this podcast is really just bringing up some topics in higher education and having guests come on and share their experiences. This week, we actually have 2 students with us, again, Dora and Judy, and we're really super excited to have you all here and share your experiences in housing. Last week, we had Julia come on. She's one of our advisors at EOP. And she shared her story about what it was like to move from Alameda down to San Diego and then back to San Francisco to do college in those 2 different schools. And she also shared about her project, Project Yellow Dress. And so if you haven't checked that out yet, go check out our second podcast. It was a really good recording, and I feel like we learned a lot from Julia. This week, we're going to get into housing. And so our first topic for today is moving away from home. And so I want to ask the questions. How did you decide to move to SF? What was it like moving away from home? Some of us are from Southern California and we moved to San Francisco. Other of us are commuting or staying home. And so what was that experience like? Were there any points in time where you struggled financially because of housing costs? And how did you deal with that? Would you rather have stayed closer to home to do school? And then again, anything else that you'd like to share after that? And so I'll first have Cynthia kind of go, I know I kind of went through that quickly, but let's first talk about how did you decide to move to SF for school?
Ooh, okay. So I'm from Lamont, so like Central Cal. People don't know where or what Lamont is, so I usually say Bakersfield. So I'm from Bakersfield. It's a small town. Everybody kind of knows everybody. There's not much to do, so I wanted to get a change of scenery and of people. So I knew that my brother was gonna be up north, so I was like, I'll just head over too. And I just decided to come. I wanted to live the city life and still be near family, you know.
Brittany?
Yeah, so for me, how I decided to move to Essa, well, I'm from Orange County, so down in SoCal, and for me at first, like I didn't know if I wanted to go to SF, like that was a big determining factor because I was like figuring out between which grad programs. And I think what really made me decide like to really move to SF was really like my program. What they really value about was, about like advancing health equity and through like a social justice lens approach, which I feel like is something very unique that you don't really find in many grad programs. And also just like the culture in SF. Like I visited once before and I love like the diversity, like the scenery, the people, like I don't know, I just felt like I could vibe in it. So that's why I decided, to move to SF and make the move.
For me, I had previously lived in Virginia right after I graduated high school, so that was a really big move to move all the way from one end of the country to the next end of the country. When I moved from Virginia to California, and then I stayed here in LA, which is where I am right now. And then having another big move to like another part of, I guess, like the same state, but it's like very different. Um, I decided to leave. One of the reasons was because I wanted to spread my wings to get away from family. And also because when I went to visit SF State for the first time, I fell in love with the campus. So that was like my number one choice as to why I decided to move to San Francisco.
Cue Dora.
Yeah, Dora's next.
My bad, y'all. So I actually still live at home, and at home is actually 10 minutes away from campus, which when I told everyone that, everyone was just extremely jealous because everyone missed their mom's cooking at home. And I was like, I get it every day. And so it was a bit of a flex, but then it was also pretty hard because of commuting and because of the commuting, which, 10 minutes, it doesn't sound that bad. But then for me to get from home to campus, it takes two buses. And sometimes I would be getting to campus at 7:20 a.m. because I didn't have my own car. And getting back home, I wouldn't get home till around 8 p.m. So I would spend my entire day on campus, which was pretty fun sometimes, but it also became very draining at some point. And so for me, my experience was just that campus, it's honestly one of the most amazing places I've been to. And one of the main reasons why I picked SF State was because of their nursing program that they have there. And so I had originally planned going to like some school in New York or someplace like that. But then towards the end of my, I want to say senior year around there, I got a baby sister. So that kind of like put a strain on in a good sense, because I wanted to be here for when she was growing up and all of that. And I do have two other younger siblings. So that also factored into my decision for coming to SF State. But overall, I'm super happy here.
Yeah, and my experience was a really big switch up in my life. And I think I've mentioned this before. If I haven't, though, my senior year, my mom actually passed away, and my dad passed away when I was 7. So I didn't have parents, and my siblings. I have 4 older sisters, so they're all grown. They're all living their lives already, and so I had nothing that was like tethering me here, and I just kind of was like, San Francisco sounds cool. I had visited the campus my junior year of high school, I think, and so for me, I was like, I like the diversity. I wanted to live in a city because I had lived in a small town my whole life. I never moved anywhere, and so just to kind of get out of my comfort zone, I wanted to move to SF. And so yeah, I packed up from Ontario, California, moved all my stuff, and then I have been out there for the last 4 years, and it's been an overall good experience. I think I've learned a lot, but I think moving away from my family was, definitely the hardest part. And yeah, Dora, I'm kind of jealous of you because, again, you got to have that experience of still having your family there, commuting to school. But yeah, again, definitely that commute is definitely difficult. Even for me, living my sophomore year, living off campus and having to commute, it was crazy. So, I commend you for that. But yeah, my experience was a little bit different, but definitely it's been overall a good one.
Yo, well, I remember back in the day, I decided to go to San Luis Obispo because I applied to mostly only LA area schools. That's where I'm from. And the only out of the area school was San Luis Obispo and I think UC Berkeley, but Berkeley didn't take me. And then San Luis Obispo, literally, their website had like a picture of an aerial shot, and I was like, that's where I'm going. I don't even care if they have anything else other than, a place for me to stay. But I'm getting out of LA, and it was all green, and I was like, man, they probably have seasons there. So I told my parents, and they were just like, yeah, whatever. They didn't take it seriously, and then until like I started like buying stuff to head out to college, and like, so you're really moving? I'm like, yup. Uh, and then I had gotten a scholarship, so it was a chance for me to like really head out and spread my wings and experience college. But this picture of college is definitely not the same for everybody, right? So even though I got a scholarship, I still struggled like in the whole like getting used to like living on campus and communal bathrooms and all that stuff. Like it was kind of a weird transition, but then you learn. Another year, I got into the suites and I had my own room and my own like a bathroom that I only share with two people. So it was kind of a trip to like go from like not ever moving once with my family and South Central LA to now bouncing around every single year in college. So it was still like one of the best experiences of my life, but definitely I had some moments where I'm like, now that I look at like what it means to be housing insecure, man, I was housing insecure a couple of different times in my college career, y'all. So it just kind of gave me memories of like the struggles, but also like the good times within the struggle.
Cool. And then I'm going to tie these two questions in together. So what was it like moving away from home, and would you rather have stayed closer to home? Cynthia, you want to start us off?
Ooh, okay. Moving away from home was horrible. It was honestly like horrible. My first year, I fell into like depression and severe anxiety. Like I wouldn't go out. Like I was always in my dorm. I was always in there. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't, it was just me. I knew no one. I was lost. I was like, I should go back home. But somehow I got through it. It was pretty bad. I got through it, and then I started finding people, and I started meeting new people and like hanging out with people. So I got out of that. But that first year experience, I mean, it's different for everyone, of course. But I do know that a lot of people do struggle, and not many people realize that a lot of people go through it too. So you start feeling alone. But I mean, you'll eventually get through it. It's okay. We all went through it. It's fine. And then also, if I would have rather gone home, honestly, it's a mix between yes and no. Yes, because I love my parents. I would love to be near them. But no, because it's Bakersfield, and I don't want to stay there. There's a thing about Bakersfield that like a lot of people say, and we all kind of know that if you decide to go to like their university, you kind of just get stuck in Bakersfield. So I was like, I don't want to get stuck in Bakersfield. And I mean, my brother's up here, so I wanted to still be close to my brother. So I was like, you know what? I'll just stay here. It's okay. I'll survive. But yeah, it's a yes and no for like moving back home. Pros and cons.
I think for me, like moving away from home was like nervous, but also exciting because it was definitely like my first time like moving somewhere far away where like my parents couldn't really like check up on me because during my undergrad, my first year, I did live in the dorms, but I was only living away 15 minutes away from home. So my parents would always come pick me up every weekend. But for grad school, that's a different story. I was scared, like, being far away from like my whole support network and like moving out on my own because I didn't know anyone else really that was, relocating to SF State. So for me, it was just like really nerve wracking, but also like exciting knowing that I'm about to like embark this new chapter in my life and like I'm gonna meet new people. Hopefully they'll like me. But yeah, it's just like that kind of like exciting part is like it's something new, something that it's out of my comfort zone, and that was something like very excited to look forward to. And then if I would rather like have the choice to stay closer to home, to be honest, like I love my family. I think I also strategically chose like it was far enough where they couldn't come reach out to me. But if I did want it to come home, I could just hop on a flight and I'll be back in SoCal in an hour. So I think it was a good decision in some way, meaning like where I needed to be close to family, but far enough where like I had my own growth and space, to do my own thing.
For me, I feel like it was one of the best decisions I've ever made to actually move out, even if it was for, I want to say like 6, 7 months, thanks to the pandemic, I'm back home. But honestly, when I first moved, for some reason, I didn't feel any sadness going away. I felt like something was wrong because I wasn't feeling like that sadness that a lot of people get. But I feel like the reason I didn't was because I met amazing friends over the summer, thanks to Summer Bridge. And I was just excited to leave. And I was excited to be with people that I knew, even though I didn't know them. And we only spent like 4 days together, but we have this bond that now we, or even if we are not together anymore, we still, Zoom each other, we still talk to each other. I think that was one of the reasons why I if I had the opportunity to go back, I would. Um, I did miss being away from home, but it wasn't like really that bad. Like Brittany said, I live in SoCal, so I was just only one plane ride away, which was only an hour compared to like the 6 hour drive of going back up. But I think it was more of the liberty of me being able to take care of myself, do the things that I need to do without having like parental control. Um, and that's really what, I guess that's what I miss. But yeah.
Dora, I'm gonna tailor your question a little bit because I know you're at home, but I guess would you want to move out? Would you want to experience like college, like living on dorms and stuff like that, or you're like, no, I'm content where I'm at?
So for me, it's actually like I want both. Main reason being because thanks to the EOP Summer Bridge, I got to experience what it was like, even if it was just for 4 days and 3 nights, what it was like to live on campus. And I literally FaceTime my family every single night, every single night. Before I went to bed, when I woke up. So like, I already know that's what my life would be like had I moved away. But then also because of my experience during my first couple of years where I just came home to eat and sleep and then I was back on campus, it was basically like I was living on campus anyway, except that I wasn't sleeping there type thing. But in the future, it is something I would like to do, possibly like move away for school, depending on whether SF State accepts me into the nursing program or not. So for me, it's like I'm also very tied to home, but I'm also very excited to like want to move someplace else because true to my name, I love to explore, honestly. And so like going out there, seeing new places, that's something you'll catch me always doing. So yeah, it's like it's both for me. Like I honestly love both ideas.
Yeah, for me, moving away how Cynthia was kind of talking about it was rough, I went through it. And I am very transparent about how much I went through it. I think I was still grieving like about my mom's situation. And then right after, literally, I think I moved 6 months after, I think, or maybe less than that. And it was kind of, to me, I felt like I was kind of like being ripped away from my family in a way, but I also was kind of thinking like, I want to do this because I think I need to kind of go through this change and be on my own, because I have never been on my own. Again, I have 4 older sisters, and so I've never been on my own. I've never had to experience that. And so for me, moving away sucked. And for the first 2 years, I really went through it. The first year was really bad. Second year got a little bit better, and then third year, was pretty much okay. But definitely that first year, I was really torn on, whether I should just call it quits and go back home. And I know a lot of people face that their first year of kind of really coming to two pathways of staying strong and finishing your time at wherever you're at, or calling it quits and going back home and trying to figure it out back there. And for me, my older sisters have all been through college, and so I was like, I cannot quit right now. I cannot go back home. I think it would be a disappointment not only to them but to myself as well. And so I stuck it out, and yeah, I did get better, but it did take a long time. And so for me, I always am very transparent when mentees come in and they say, I'm homesick, I don't have friends, I'm going through it. I'm like, no, I'm same. I did that too. And it wasn't easy, and it's not going to be easy, but you are going to be a better person from this experience. And so I guess going into what I rather have stayed closer to home, I think my first year and my second year I probably would have had said yes, but now I would definitely say no, because I got experiences in San Francisco that I'd never get down here. And Cynthia kind of also mentioned that too, about having to leave Bakersfield. You don't want to stay there, and I think that's the same thing here. No shade to people that stay in their hometown and they do school close to home, but I do just feel like you kind of get used to that repetition and to that safety net, and so you don't ever want to go explore anything outside. And so for me, I always tell people, try it and really stick to it. And if it's too expensive, or you're really really struggling to the point where it's being detrimental to yourself, call it quits and go back home and heal, and then try to venture out later. But yeah, so my first year, super rough, but I definitely would not have gone anywhere else. So yeah, that's kind of my experience.
Yo, I'll start with the word guilt. Because when I decided to move out and abandon my family, right? My mom still to this day is like, remember when you abandoned us for 5 years? I'm like, what? You mean when I went to college? Right? So like when I went to school, like I didn't even have a cell phone until like my second year in college. I know that sounds hard to believe, or not, but so I had a dorm number, but I was hardly at my dorm, and I would call my mom, maybe once a week, and then it became once a month, and then hardly ever, and I think that's what ended up like, her thinking like, what are you doing over there in college? You can't even call your mom. Right. So, but now upon reflection, it makes me think of how much more I appreciate home, which I'm back home right now with my parents, as a university professional, and she's still giving me heat for stuff, so it doesn't go away. Parents are just gonna be doing that for you for the rest of your life, it seems like. But it was a chance for me to prove to myself that I could live on my own independently, if I so choose to. And even though it was a struggle sometimes, like it gave me a sense of like, okay, if I'm gonna live alone, this is what it's like. But the other thing that comes to mind is like, if I wouldn't have dormed, if I wouldn't have gone away to specifically San Luis Obispo, I would have never met like my college friends that are still like my best friends to this day, right? I joined a fraternity, and we all are in a group chat. We're like in daily communication, 24 hours a day. It seems like sometimes I'm like, I blink and there's 100 messages, So I think, to me, in a way, I've been using this a lot, but like it's kind of the universe working in your favor. Like sometimes you think things are not that great, and then you turn a corner and then you reflect and you're like, damn, that actually was a pretty good experience. And so I also commuted when I did my master's program. So I got both now. I lived on campus, and there were situations where I lived just close to campus, a little further away from campus. But then when I moved back to LA and I did my master's, the commute to campus was crazy because I would work at Pomona, and then I had to drive all the way across town to LAX, which is like an hour and a half drive sometimes or more. And so the commuting to work and to school was a big toll on me. But also, again, like afterwards, you're done and you're like, damn, that's crazy. I can't believe I did that. And you just kind of add it to your tool belt in terms of like, now you know how to commute from one side of town to the other without looking it up on your GPS because you've done it so many times, you know. I got used to doing that, like just everywhere I go, even if it's 30 minutes away and I know I've been there, I still put the GPS. But when you do it so many times, you know it by heart and it becomes part of your little like nostalgic scenic route sometimes when you give people a tour of your hometown, you know. But yeah, so no regrets for sure, but there could have been some things I did better, but overall I think it was definitely worth it for me and my experience.
All right, I had one more question, but I think I'm actually going to move this question down to another topic we're going to talk about later. So I'm going to save that one because I think it fits well with it. But I think now let's kind of going into the dorming aspect of it. So we've shared our stories about what it was like moving away from home and how that kind of felt. And now I kind of want to talk about dorming and what that experience is like. So my first question would be, where did you stay each year at SF State? What was it like living with roommates? What items did you bring when you moved in that were essential? Or even like you kind of found something that was down the road, like maybe in your junior year or something that was essential to you and you're like, no, you need to have this for sure. And then, yeah, anything else or any extra advice you kind of like to share? Cynthia, lead the way.
Oh gosh, y'all. Okay, let's see. My first year, I stayed in Mary Ward, which are the dorms. It's right across from the dining center. And then my second year, I lived, is it UPN? The one next to the mall? UPN. Literally lived right across the entrance. So, like, the walk to McDonald's, y'all, was amazing. My third year, I lived off of campus in Daly City, which was like 10 minutes away. So my first year, since I was living in the dorms, like I said, I was very to myself. I didn't talk to anyone, anything. I decided, I need a distraction. And since I lived right across from the dining center, I got a job at the dining center. And it was pretty interesting because not many people knew that students actually worked there. So seeing people from my floor just looking at me like, what the heck are you doing here? Was pretty funny. Um, but that year I didn't do much. Like I said, I literally just worked and kept to myself. That was it. My second year, um, I had met some girls in one of my classes, so then we became roommates for my second year and we were living in UPN. It was pretty fun. Honestly, I enjoyed living more on the outer side of campus than like in campus than like the dorms because UPN is like on the outside of it. So it was really nice having to like walk even farther to class. And it was also really nice to, like I said, McDonald's was right there, y'all. And McDonald's was open 24 hours. So we would be taking those 3 a.m. walks 3 a.m. walks to McDonald's. Don't ask me. I don't know. We were just, it was pretty fun. I still talk to some of the girls, so we're close friends. My third year, my third year was quite a trip. Some of my coworkers here know that I didn't have the best roommates. It was a kind of crazy experience, but I also enjoyed living off of campus just because I was also living in a really good area, like next to a grocery store and everything. So I wasn't too far from anything. The only struggle with that would be the whole commuting. I know Dora was mentioning the whole like taking the bus in the morning. Yeah, I was always late, always because the bus would never pass. Even if I woke up even earlier to take the earlier bus, it wouldn't work out. So I feel like that was a struggle. But you know, I think we all have crazy roommate stories once in a while. And if we don't, then you'll experience it soon. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Just wait on it. I'm telling you. And then what was your other question, Yasmin? Was that?
Well, we can get into it later if you want, because I feel like these next two kind of tie in together. So I'll bring it back around.
Okay, so for me, I didn't live in the dorms. Unfortunately, as of now, like for grad students, like there's not really like a space for us to live on campus. Right now, it's like more geared towards undergrads, but hopefully maybe in a few years, like they'll see the need that, grad students need a place to stay. So for me, like it was a different like turnaround where I actually had to hunt like, an apartment or like a space for me to find to live nearby school. And living in the Bay Area is expensive. Like living in San Francisco is even more expensive, living in the city. So for me, like what I had to do was like, coming from a low income background, I was like, I can't afford to live inside SF. So I'm gonna have to live on the outskirts of SF. And so me and my roommates, like we ended up living in West Oakland, which is like, if you look on Google Maps, like it's like that little like crescent that is like across the waters from the city. So I lived as close as I could on the edge of San Francisco so that I could take the BART to SF. So usually like my commute would be like about an hour and a half. So I would like walk 15 minutes to the BART, then take the BART to Daly City, and then take the bus to SF State. So it was quite a commute, but I mean, it was, kind of like, what I could do the best I can with the budget I had, living, in West Oakland to get to SF State.
For me, it was a bit of a roller coaster. I kind of signed up late for housing on campus. So I was like, I want to say 260 something on the list. Um, so I ended up like trying to find out where I could get some housing through like websites, Facebook. Um, I forgot there's like a recommendation for like a roommate website just for campuses. So I did that. I found a group of girls that they were looking for like an extra person so they can get like an apartment somewhere near campus. That didn't work out because I ended up there was like something going on. I ended up actually getting housing on campus on I forgot where exactly I got housing, but then I had to I guess like not get it because there was like something going on with me transferring to SF State, so there was a possibility of me not going. Then literally a day right before move-in date, I get a call from SF State telling me that I would have to find housing because I would be able to go. And I was back on the waiting list. I was like number 100 and something. So after that, they told me that they found housing for me. So I ended up doing that, but I gave my paperwork a little bit late. So I ended up having to stay um, at a hostel for about 2 weeks. So I would commute for the first 2 weeks of fall 2019, I think it was. And the first 2 weeks were a little interesting. And then having to move everything that I already had packed to, go to the housing, um, um, it was a struggle. But at the end of the day, I ended up getting housing at UPN, which was a bit different for me. I lived in the high rises. Amazing view, honestly. But yeah, I didn't. My roommates were interesting. There were two cats in my with the roommates that I was. Yeah, they did not get along. The cats, which was funny. Sometimes they would end up having like fights with each other, but between me and my roommates, we never had fights, which is good.
Nora, for you, give us a breakdown of what it's like living at home and going to school.
So actually I did have a roommate for my first semester, And it was someone who I met at EOP Summer Bridge. And like Cynthia said, we all have our roommate stories. But long story short, it ended up not working out. But living here at home, it's actually been pretty great because I know some students who still live at home who don't have their own room, and especially because of the pandemic and moving back home, especially more so. But I've been, like, I like to say, super blessed because I do have my own room, I do have my own space. Of course, I get the occasional 2.5-year-old almost knocking my door down. So it does, it definitely does put a lot more responsibility because I'm a first generation college student and the eldest on top of that. So there's always like those usual like trips to the doctor and sometimes missing class because of, you know, family things and everything. So for me, staying at home was, it was like having like a part-time job while having school. And sometimes I joke about my mom where I'm your personal Uber, like, come on, dude. But she's like, I pay you with food, so you're okay. I was like, okay, we like that, we stand that. So that's what my experience has been like, staying here at home. And then you know, I also shared my experience with commuting and everything. And so luckily I don't have any roommates at the moment, so.
Okay, so my story, let's see. I lived in Village my first year, and it was awesome. I loved living in Village. The cost wasn't awesome. That's where I pulled out the most student loan debt my first year. I think I pulled out like 7,000 just to pay off the rest of living in Village, and on top of that, I was still paying like $1,000 at the end. So yeah, I loved living in Village, and yeah, my roommates were pretty cool. We're still friends to this day. And again, moving in, you know, with people is difficult, but we, for the most part, got along really well. Um, and you know, I still have a relationship with them, so it was cool. Yeah, living in Village. And then my second year, I moved to UPN, and that was the year, y'all. I moved in with some coworkers, and they were just the best times. I'm still friends. Giselle, if you're watching this, you're the homie. I love her to death. She was just always there for me, and she was just like the greatest influence in my life at that time. And so we became really good friends, and we would do everything together. We would literally like drive to Almeida because I brought my car my second year, and so we would like drive to Almeida or like just do crazy things. And I felt like that was the closest I've ever been to a group of people. Um, and so yeah, it was dope time. And then my third year, I moved off campus because I had my own things with housing going on and stuff like that. And so I moved off campus to a small place in Outer Sunset. And oh my gosh, it was like, I don't know, for any of you SF people, like Outer Sunset is basically all along like the beach area, Ocean Beach. And so, yeah, living there was awesome. We would literally walk maybe like 10 minutes and we would hit the beach. And then there was, it was right where, for any of y'all that know, Pollyanne's ice cream and the boba shop. I can't remember what the boba shop is called, but it's like Pollyanne's boba shop and then Domino's and like a hardware store. And so, like, yeah, those are the best times too. Yeah, living with roommates though, I feel like every year was different um, because I moved every year with different people. And so my first year, I didn't know those people when I moved in, but we became good friends. And then my second year was the best year, and we became best friends, and we're still friends to this day. And then my third year, we moved in with, it was like a whole house, but like the house was split into two. So the top was its own house and the bottom was its own house. And there was problems because there's just so many of us living in like one unit. And so yeah, I faced problems there, but the girls that we lived with, like, they were good people overall, you know. But they were younger than us, and so, you know, there was definitely that divide, but they were still good people at the end of the day. But I think everybody faces roommate issues, even if you move in like with your best friends. because for me, I always say, like, you never know who a person is until you move in with them and you really get to see the nitty gritty of them. And so, yeah, that was kind of like my experience, living with roommates and all that stuff. But overall, good time. And I definitely recommend, like, if you are moving to SF, try to find a place off campus, because campus housing is just way too pricey. And I've worked in res life for the last 3 years, and so I know all the nitty gritty about it. But yeah.
Yep. Yo, I feel like I have a million housing stories, but I'm gonna like try to see which one stands out. Well, I'll share actually moving to SF. The biggest thing about moving from LA to SF, and I did it for work, is literally the temperature change. Like in the summer that I moved up to SF in LA, it was like 102, 103. That same day when I got to SF, it was like in the low 60s, right? And I was like, what the heck? I really didn't understand the climate change in terms of like the difference between the Bay and LA. I just thought it's California, it should be still sunny. And that was a big shock to me. And like I had no type of layering situation. So that was rough. Like I wanted to believe that I could get by without like a jacket, but yeah, that's not possible. And then in terms of like, I stayed at UPN as well, Judy, for from 2018, late 2018 to, yeah, like one academic year. It's a year lease, and it was dope. I liked living there. I was on the second floor, I think, so second or third, so it wasn't that great of a view, but I actually enjoyed being able to walk to campus, and the mall is right there. So that was cool. But then I was conflicted because I was like, well, I'm kind of taking up a student space here, like, so I didn't renew that contract. But I got to stay in the dorms essentially as a staff member, which is pretty cool. But again, like I felt weird about it, thinking back. And then the story I want to share is like I discovered at some point in my undergrad that I was that roommate. I was the bad roommate. It took me a while to really realize that, right? Like you want to think that you're doing your part and you're not annoying anybody, but like sometimes our lack of cleanliness or time to do something, it matters to other people. For example, the dishes, right? Like I had a 24-hour rule, but my roommate was like, it's a 12-hour rule. I'm like, what? So he's like, if and communication was always like the problem, right? Like we should have established when we should wash the dishes, or if there's a grace period, or like, hey, if the rent's due on the 1st, I need the money before, or like the day of. So all those things that went wrong, like I was actually kind of the culprit of, right? I'm like, because I knew we had a 5-day grace period for the rent. So I'm like, oh, I'll get it to you. And even though I had the money, like literally had to just press send, I would still lag it.
No
And
way, you were
I know. I said I was the bad roommate. And so it took me someone to tell me, like, bro, you need to like, think about what you're doing to others. Like it might not mean a lot to you, but to the other person, it's like, it means a lot to them to be clean, to be paying the rent on time, to not play music past 10 p.m. quiet hours. Like, so I checked off all the boxes of like a bad roommate, all the way to like my second or third year, right? Because my senior year, my last year at Cal Poly Slow, I feel like I finally shaped up. But it really took, my fraternity brother, which is my big brother, Lucio, to tell me like, I need to talk to you real quick, And that was the year we roomed together, so like, it was perfect timing, right? He's like, I'm gonna tell you how I feel about what you've been doing, and it really changed my way of like living with others. So like, sometimes you gotta look within and be like, is it me? Is it me or is it them? And then there has to be a compromise, and communication is like absolutely key.
I forgot that was my my time to ask the next question. I'm like, who's going next? I'm out here. Okay, cool. I want to get into kind of the portion where we kind of talk about like some advice for people. So one thing that I want to ask is, sorry, I'm looking at the questions. Oh, what items did you bring that you deemed essential? And also, any other advice you kind of want to give someone who's moving into a dorm or any type of other housing during their college experience? So I feel like, I don't know if everyone kind of needs to take a minute, but Cynthia, start us off if you're ready.
Okay, I had, let's see, I had like 4 like musts. So I had a mini fridge, and that was a must just because sometimes sharing that fridge does not work. It does not work. So mini fridge was a must, have it next to your bed so you could just reach and get that cold water at night. I also had one of those big like whiteboard calendars that you hang. Needed that because your girl is not good with scheduling sometimes. And I also had decor, no matter what kind of decor, just something to make me feel at home and put together. And then also something to make me feel at home. I would always carry this little picture. It was one of the first few trips that my parents came over to visit me. We went on one of those like touristy like boat rides under the bridge. And then right before you get on the bridge, they let you take a picture and put the green screen in the back. So it was just me, my parents, and they had brought my dog. So it was just me, my parents, and my dog in the picture. And it would be like a little magnetic picture, so I would always stick it on the fridge. And I always had it. If not, like I'd be like, something's missing. It's just that little reminder of like, oh, they're there. Um, those are my essentials, like for sure. I always had them every single year. Advice, I think the only thing would be enjoy it. No matter how bad your roommates are, no matter how bad the situation is, you're gonna miss it. I definitely miss it. I don't care if my roommates were horrible. I miss just having someone bothering me, like people yelling in the house and arguing all the time. I kind of miss it. It was an interesting, and then you have a story to tell. Like, oh yeah, that one time my roommate, you always have stories to tell. So I kind of just enjoy it, live in the moment. Sometimes you wish it was kind of over, like, oh, I just want to go home, like, um, get out of this place. These people aren't good. But I mean, at some points you'll miss it. So just enjoy it.
I think for me, like some advice that I would give is I guess like living in the Bay, just know that there's not going to be a lot of space available. I think a lot of the houses are designed, like very minimal space. So if you're a person that is like prepared to bring like 10 luggages, you might want to consider like what you really need versus what you want. So maybe consider like a storage ottoman, which is furniture that like does like multifunctional things. So for me, when I lived in my apartment, I brought like the storage ottoman, which like acted like as a chair or like kind of like a desk to hold stuff. But then when you lifted it up, like I had like my other things that I needed to kind of help stay organized. And then also too, like when you're looking, if you're thinking of like moving, to live off campus, I know like some of them have mentioned about like location, but also, taking the consider about like, where would be my locus like grocery store? Where is like, is it nearby like public transport so that I can get to the places where I need to be, like school, for example? So just look into that too. And also like, making sure like it's surrounded in a place where also like you feel comfortable, because you also want to, you're signing like a year lease contract, so you want to make sure that the place that you're choosing is somewhere you feel like going to be comfortable in, because that's going to be your environment for a year. So just make sure doing your research beforehand before you start to settle.
Britt, did you have anything that was essential? Oh wait, you said your ottoman, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that was your essential. I wasn't sure because I thought I forgot, but
Essential for me. Well, there wasn't really a lot. For me, I guess like what I packed was like all my clothes, and I just did it in this one giant suitcase, and I literally moved that same day. I mean, like Brittany said, there's gonna be like some space issues, especially if you're sharing a room with another person, just kind of like keep your things in your place and they're keeping their things in their place. Um, I guess something for me that was essential. My parents are very religious, and I guess I've carried that on with me, even though I'm not very religious myself. But they gave me like this little bracelet, like rosary that I would keep on my wrist all the time, and I guess like that was a little piece of home slash me feeling like I was safe like that for some reason. But I guess that would be my essential item. Um, some advice would be to get your roommate's contacts as soon as you meet them. I forgot my keys on the inside of the house and I did not have my roommate's number or any social media. And I just had to wait downstairs for like a good hour before somebody came in or got out and knock on the door. It turns out nobody was there. We had in the apartment that I was at, there's like this bottom door that nobody knows that apparently opens from the outside. I snuck myself in. But yes, definitely get your roommate's socials number, not socials, but like social media and their numbers or something like that, because you will forget your key. And instead of going to like to the desk assistant, sometimes, I mean, they'll give you like a strike if you forget your key and they have to go up for you, or yeah, all of that. A third strike, they start charging you. So yeah.
Dora, it's your time to shine. Is there any essentials that you have or any advice that you would give to other people who are living at home?
So for me, one of the essentials is a thermal lunchbox. Main reason being because food on campus is too expensive, way too expensive. And like it also depends on where you go also and what kind of food you like, because sometimes we can be picky and all of that. So that was one of my main things, especially cooking in bulk. That's something I would do. Sunday night, I would just cook like a whole bag of ravioli and then just eat it throughout the week. And then also making sure like to balance out my meals in my lunchbox so that to have like a good sized portion of everything. So like I bought one off of Amazon. It was like $20 and it was like 5 tiers and it came with like utensils and everything. And especially like commuting to campus and like not being able to go home throughout the day. So it was like always having like that extra toothbrush and toothpaste and like, it was like a whole like esthetician's bag in my bag. Like, I don't know, like I became Mary Poppins during my commutes because like I had everything in there. And then especially like the weather, like it's so versatile. Like I would come in wearing like a thick coat that was like a whole inch thick, and like a couple hours later it was already like 70 degrees and I was like dying, like especially like walking throughout campus. But my best advice for people who are commuting to campus is network, make friends, make community, because that's the biggest thing that helped me out. Because I had so many friends that were like, oh, you're getting this meal for like $11. Like, there's this place you can go to that's like $5, and it's like an even bigger portion of food. And I was like, where have you been all my life? And so, especially like times when you just wake up way too late and you're just like scrambling to get like there was this one time my dad came in, he was like, aren't you going to school? It's already 7 a.m. And I was like, oh snap. And like I'm gonna be late, especially since I had 8 a.m. classes every single day. So like it was really tough. Sometimes I would just say like network, figure out places where it caters to your needs, but then like make sure you're not also like spending your whole wallet. Like make sure there's no like a little fly coming out of it like at the end of the month because you have nothing left. So that would be my biggest advice. And then also making friends. Like I know it's hard sometimes to make friends, like especially new people you've never met before in classes and everything, and then getting nervous and social anxiety, like it can play a big factor in all of that. But I know for sure for a fact that like making friends and networking at school has saved me like so much money, so much time, and like just sometimes being at school for so long, like you get bored, you get lonely, and then like just having a friend to reach out to and be like, oh hey, like you want to go lay down in the quad or something, like just chill, and like them being, yeah, let's go, you know, it's just like, it can be like a great boost morale, especially when we're stressed and everything like that, just to have some place to go, especially with all of the EOP events that were going on campus. Like some days I was just sitting there and I was like, I have nothing to do. And then suddenly I get like 3 emails from Noah and like, oh, we're having an event right now. I was like, oh, okay, shoot, let's go. And so, you know, it was just like, it's just great to have that community, that like back support while you're on campus. And like, especially if you're spending a lot of time there, and just to have like a safe place there. So yeah.
Yo, my essential item is a vacuum, y'all. I have a Bissell stick vacuum, and that thing came in clutch so many times. If anybody knows me, I'm kind of really like picky and like super like, I don't like dirty things and stuff like that. And so I had a vacuum and everyone like ragged on me, but low key they'd be asking for it all the time. They'd be like, "Can I borrow your vacuum? I have a guest coming over." And I'd be like, "Bro, you could borrow it as long as you dump it out because that part's nasty." Yeah. Yeah, my thing is a vacuum, y'all. A vacuum. Y'all think you're not gonna need it, but when you live in an apartment with a bunch of people that have hair and they drop things on the floor, it being nasty, okay? And especially if you have pets too, because you know their fur gets all over the couch. So a vacuum, specifically the Bissell stick vacuum. It's like comes in like different colors. Mine was teal, but it was a plug because the little thing popped off and it became like a hand one, and you could pop the little thing back on and it would, you know, turn into a whole vacuum. So yeah, no, not sponsored, but that's the thing, stick vacuum. And then as far as advice, I would really say one thing that I regret not doing more of is exploring. And Cynthia kind of touched on this a little bit, but my first year, I was so focused on uh, adapting to being from SoCal and then going up to NorCal that I really didn't get out much. And it caused me to not really have that many friends my first year. My second year, I started to venture out a little bit more because I had a car. But even still, I wasn't exploring. I wasn't going out on weekends very much. And it restricted me. And it's something that I really regret because there's so many things in the Bay Area that are so different from Southern California that there's just so much that you can explore. And I wish that I did that more often. And I know it can be a little bit scary because for me, I am like literally like this little stick, and I feel like somebody could just snatch me. And so that's a lot of the reason why I didn't go explore. But like, look at all this time. Like the times I did go out, like no one snatched me. So, you know, I could have just got rid of that fear and went out there and explored and lived my life. So I definitely say go explore and live your life. And sometimes you got to put homework and other people on the back burner and just do you. So don't be afraid to do that. At least like once a month, go out and really do something. But yeah, that's my gist.
Yo, after I just counted, I've moved like 10 times at this point in my life, since college, right? So I think for me, this last time that I moved from so I was in Sacramento and I moved down to LA, is there are so many things that we keep that we really don't need, that my advice is like take the chance to be like what's that show that helps you clean? I forgot the name of it, but basically, does this item bring me joy or serve some sort of purpose? And if it doesn't, it's time to go. It's time to go. It's time to. I have a box of memories, and what I decided to do is just start taking pictures of like my memories stuff that I just have stored away, and give it away or give it to someone you know that as a gift. Like, here, I want you to keep my whatever it might be. I can't think of something right now, but just let it go. Like, you don't, if it's not absolutely critical to your functioning in terms of being a student, let it go. Clothes is probably the big one, right? Like, how many different outfits do you really need? I don't know. That's just me, because I'm the type of person that has like 10 black shirts and then maybe some school gear and I mix it up with the shorts and pants, like bare minimum. And and I have that one good jacket like Bernie Sanders, but honestly, the one I do have one recommendation, like a good chair, y'all. Like you need a good chair. I can't do those wooden chairs. I can't do those like plastic chairs. I have to have that mesh bottom chair, because you'd be sitting for hours on these uncomfortable chairs, and that can mess up your spine, like we're sitting for several hours studying or doing work, and we hardly get up to stretch like as much as we should. So a good chair where you can lean back and stretch and go up and down, and your bottom's not like under like really hard pressure, like that's essential for me. um, yeah.
All right, y'all. This is kind of the part where we kind of get a little bit real here, and we talk about some of the struggles that we face in housing. And again, I kind of want to have this as we're open and we kind of all just chime in here. But some of the things that we face, and so some of the things that I kind of have are like cost of living, safety, making friends, finding resources, and stuff like that. And also the question before, were there any points in time where you struggle financially because of the housing costs here in SF? And so the floor is really open to anybody. I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, and I think we've all kind of talked about it, but like Bay Area is expensive, and you really don't know about it until you move out here. For me, I was like, I'd never moved away from home, never like didn't know about rent, didn't know about none of this stuff, and then I was kind of just thrown into it. So that was a little surprising to me. Noe, I see you got your hand.
Yo, I want to reiterate that it's hard to get a off-campus apartment. Not just they're available. The hard part is there's two parts to it. There's collecting the first month's rent and the security deposit, right? So the reason why I didn't move into like an apartment right away was because I got the job, but I had to spend 6 months not working. So I had to get into a place that didn't require or like something that I could afford, right? So I ended up moving into a room in a house that I shared with my partner, and we're kind of miserable for the first couple of months until I was able to like get my first check, have my security deposit in line. And even though it was staff and faculty housing, there were still stiflers about like you need this much money and you need this much deposit, and also we're gonna do a credit check. I'm like, what? Like a credit check? If I have the money already a month in advance, why do we need to run my credit? And then not only that, a background check too. Like it's like you need a credit check, a background check, the security deposit, the monthly. Like where does it end? Like so that means you got to start super early looking for a spot if you're planning to move back to the Bay. Because it's like a 3-4 month process until you find the spot that you like. And so one thing that I just want to give you a heads up is there's definitely a way to play your financial aid to like hold off on getting a place until your disbursement comes through. Maybe I know it's hard, but like if you're really struggling for cash, you have to think about what kind of money is gonna come in and are you gonna come into contact with, and how are you gonna use that money to set up your next move. So that's my piece.
Yeah, I agree with Noah. I didn't, to be very transparent, when I moved to Outer Sunset, the place that I was living at, it was $3,000 right off the bat. So it was, actually, no, it was $4,000 off the bat. It was first month's rent, last month's rent, and $1,000 security deposit. And so, yeah, it was $4,000 right off the bat. And then we had to do credit check too. And I was like, I don't know what a credit check is. And also, I think we did the money in a money order. I think it was something like that. And I didn't know what that was either. I was like, what the heck? And so I had to like literally call my sisters back home and be like, hey, can you help me with this process? And then the banks charge you for money orders too. So I was like, that was another like $25 right there. And so yeah, to just be transparent. I know like people are like $4,000, like that's a lot of money. Yeah, it is. And this podcast again is being transparent with y'all about what we faced here. And so for me, yeah, that was all out of my pocket. I paid that myself, and so it was really scary. But I knew that like, what else was I gonna do? I didn't have another option. And so, just thinking about that when you move to anywhere, not even just the Bay Area, but anywhere is expensive. And so making sure you know what you're getting yourself into financially. Judy, I see your hand up.
For me, when I was looking for a place right before I got housing, um, the requirements that they needed, I feel like they were a bit ridiculous because it was going to be four of us who were living under the same roof, and they wanted us to have about 100,000 cumulative for all of us to make that much, which is a lot of money. And in my mind, I'm like, you want us to have like a doctor's salary to move in here? I honestly thought it was ridiculous. And then on top of that, they were asking for like, if we couldn't make the needs, we needed co-signers, but they needed to be like with good credit. The deposit was going to be of almost, I want to say $7,000 in total for the four of us, which is a lot of money. If you were to split it between four, it's still like $2,000 to $3,000 each. When I moved into UPN, it wasn't necessarily like that, but I did have to take out loans. I think it's about like $7,000 or $8,000 per semester to move into like campus housing, and it's still pretty expensive. The loans that I have literally were just for me to live on campus, and it wasn't for any like school thing, like nothing that had to do with my with my classes or nothing. It was just living there. I worked two jobs. I worked at Vans, and I worked at as an RSA, residential service assistant. And even then, I still couldn't make ends meet. I would sometimes have to call in my parents and like, hey, do you think you can send me like 20-30 bucks so I can like pay for groceries this week or something, and I'll pay you back? And I knew my parents weren't doing their best here either, since I'm kind of like the one that makes the money in the household, but they were doing fine, but they would help me out either way. And Gator Groceries really came through for a lot of my food instability. Sometimes it wouldn't be like the things that we needed, like like all of the food groups, but a lot of the time Gator Groceries came in clutch. But yeah, it's very expensive to live in the Bay Area, and it's just trying to manage your money, what you really need to spend it on. And yeah, pretty much like that. I mean, even I even asked myself now, I was like, how did I have two jobs and still not make ends meet? That was literally my question.
Yo, I hear that. My God.
No, yeah, definitely, Judy. I hear that too. I was working two jobs too. I was working with Residential Life and then here at EOP, and I was still having to pull out loans. So definitely.
So one thing for me, especially because of where I came from high school, like I was told that I didn't qualify for any scholarships or any financial aid. So right off the bat, I didn't apply for any. And my main source of income is, my parents. They're helping me pay for college and everything, which I'm super grateful for. But we ended up paying full tuition, full out-of-state tuition for the first year of college. And if it hadn't been for Norma at the DRC, I would probably still be paying that, if I'm being fully honest. Because if it hadn't been for her, she was like, okay, fill out AB 540 right now in front of me. Like, I'm not letting you go till you do that. And I'm super grateful for that. But it's just like, you have to like figure out like what can help you and how it can help you, because like resources are there. They've always been there. They always have been. But sometimes they're just like hidden away so deeply. Like it's like a rabbit hole trying to get to some, especially because some of us are like from immigrant parents, and so because of our status here in the country, it can get like extremely hard. And like hearing all of the stories from you guys, and especially from friends that I met on campus who were also, you know, working 2 jobs and still even applying for even more jobs, just to make ends meet and pulling out loans. And it's just like I'm just like I feel like I should commend you guys, because it's such a struggle, and it's such a big load to take on, especially when it's like straight out of high school and like suddenly faced with all of these, like Jasmine was saying, like all of these like financial responsibilities, and like some of the things you're just like, what do I even do here? Like I don't even know like what's the process with this. And they're like asking so much from students that are like honestly struggling. And I mean, like there were also times, because like my family, my dad works in construction, so he's self-employed. And so like it's not a direct stream. Like sometimes there's been months, entire months, where he just has no job whatsoever. And so like we've also struggled in that sense, where like sometimes like I would wake up and try to make myself some food before going to school, but there was no groceries for that. And so that's another way that but I also try to apply for what should we call it, the CalFresh. But because I was a dependent and I lived with my parents, I didn't qualify for it. And so that also put like a strain on things, because I was, you know, trying to get in groceries, trying to find some way. And that's another way that Gator Groceries came in clutch. And so that's another way where I just feel like community and networking also comes into play a lot, because then like some people are like, oh, I'll help you with your application so you make sure you get something. And then there's people who are like, oh, apply for this one, and like it's guaranteed that they'll give you some, because a lot of people don't apply for it. And so like again, I just commend you guys, because it's just amazing hearing your stories about like all of the struggles, and you were able to overcome that, most importantly. And like you are where you are now because like you fought your way into everything that you did. So yeah.
Yeah, y'all. I think I'm really happy that y'all have shared your stories, kind of, you know, and also been really transparent on the like problems that you faced. Again, yeah, Bay Area just is different. It's very expensive. Even with groceries, I've noticed that like groceries out there are a couple dollars more than back out here. Gas out there, y'all. At one point, gas was $5 a gallon. $5, like for like the basic one too, not even premium. So for me, I was like, this is crazy. Driving out here was expensive. Finding mechanics out there was expensive. Uh, yeah, living on campus, loans and all that stuff. I know a lot of us have taken out loans because literally we just have to pay for housing. Um, Definitely.
Yo, I judge a city's like how bougie it is by the price of a burrito, and the price of a burrito in SF is ridiculous, y'all. Like it's like $15 for a burrito. In LA, you for $15 you'll get a burrito, 2 tacos, and a drink. Like that's like on the real, yo. Like
I mean, it's just a matter of really knowing what you want, what you're getting yourself into. I think a lot of people, when they see San Francisco, they think of this great tourist area, and they don't realize that there's a housing crisis out there, not only for native born people from there, but also people that are coming in to go to school or to be a part of businesses out there, because San Francisco is a business hub, and there's a lot of fresh faces out there, but they're struggling too to make ends meet, and it's something that's not really talked about. And again, that's we are going to have another episode on specifically housing, the housing crisis in San Francisco. This one was more so about like our experiences moving to the Bay Area, but we will have another episode where we have someone come on and talk about some resources that SF State offers, and also just the housing crisis out there in general, because it's not a joke, it's not glamorous, it's serious. And I'm aware that a lot of students at SF State are facing problems in housing and are a part of this housing crisis. So definitely wanted to get into that. Yeah, but besides that, is there anything else that anybody else wants to kind of like touch on before we move on to like the last thing? Let me pull this open. Hold on.
I can also add one more thing too, because I know we've like highlighted about like the housing crisis, and how like it's very expensive to relocate in the Bay. I think it's also important for folks to be aware that I think oftentimes people see the media, that like San Francisco is really glamorized and like romanticized. That's like it's this beautiful, like all good stuff happen, but unfortunately there are like pockets, in the city and around nearby the Bay where crime rates are very common that happen pretty frequently. And I remember too, like I remember I was sitting in like an improv like comedy show, and this like comedian was saying like was making a joke, dark humor about like you haven't really been welcome to the Bay if you haven't really experienced like a car break-in, and also like that's just like a reality. Like most people have experienced a car break-in. Sometimes people like have been like have their stuff stolen, which is common. So for safety, it's just very important to be alert, aware, and for me, like I carry a pepper spray, like if I'm in a really bad situation, just a way to defend myself, but just also being aware that like unfortunately some places are not safe, and it sucks because for me, like I'm realizing like many folks like are sailing are just trying to survive out here. They're just trying to get by. So that's just another thing too. Like this housing crisis is just really expensive and pushing like you know mostly like low income communities of color out of the city, and that's like an important topic to like keep bringing up and finding ways to combat that and homelessness here.
I agree with that. And something I want to talk about next, when we get into the second part of housing and the housing crisis, is again touching on safety out there. I think all of us have experienced something involving safety, and it's a larger conversation. But definitely, I'm really thankful that you brought that up, Britt. All right, so this is kind of the portion where we kind of move in. I want to plug some housing resources. Um, and so we will actually have somebody come in, Stephanie, and she's going to come in and talk about paths, and kind of explain that. And we'll have, hopefully, with if not next week, in the next couple of weeks, have her come in and really give a breakdown of what paths is. But it's paths provides temporary crisis housing and homelessness intervention, and so much more. And so it's something to look into if you're facing housing difficulties. And again, we're going to have Steph come in and talk about that and give it the proper breakdown that it needs to. But I wanted to just mention that now because I know the pandemic has really affected some students out there. And if you're currently in any type of situation, please check out PATHS and reach out to them. And then also CalFresh. And so we have a lot of CalFresh help clinics and assistants here at SF State. And so you can actually go to basicneeds.sfsu.edu, and it'll lead you to the CalFresh Help Clinic page, where you can make up an appointment to start the application and get the resources that you need. And they can really break down like what it means to apply, how is that going to affect you, what's the rate, and all that stuff. Is there anything else? No, I know you probably know a couple of other places.
I think that's a perfect place to start because it's a new initiative, and even if you're not sure, the truth is that a lot of students are actually housing insecure. You just don't know it. You just don't realize it because we don't know the definition of about what it means to be insecure in housing, and it could be literally not having like a key and so relying on someone to open the door for you, or also like if you're in a month-to-month situation where you're struggling to come up with the next month's rent, that means you're housing insecure. So if there's resources on campus already, like start by going to this one that's dedicated specifically for that. And they'll, if they can't help you, at least they're the ones collecting all the resources that may be able to help you. So first things first is just go on that website, see if you can schedule an appointment right away, and just talk to someone about your current situation, and then determine, what resources are available to you.
Yeah, and again, that website is basicneeds.sfsu.edu. Yeah, yeah. The spectrum is all over the place, and I know especially because the pandemic happened right now, a lot of people are in different places. Some are fortunate enough to be able to go back home, but there's many students out there that really had to scramble when the pandemic hit. And again, we'll get into that in another episode where we focus more so on the seriousness um, and the stigmas around that situation. Yeah. So this part now where we kind of get into closing, last thoughts, and I'll wrap it up with what's in store for next week. But yeah, do y'all have any other like last thoughts, literally about anything, any last minute things that kind of popped up? You can shout it out, or anything.
Living in the Bay Area is not that bad.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. When you get to explore it, when you get to, take your time and actually go out, it's not that bad. Yes, it's a struggle to live there, like making ends meet, actually putting things that are prioritizing certain things. But at the end of the day, like if you do end up like living in the Bay Area, you're gonna love it. But you should really, take your time and explore it. Obviously, post pandemic, but it's a really good time, and you should enjoy that, even if it's just a little bit. Enjoy it.
Yeah, Judy, I'm really happy that you kind of brought up that. I know we kind of went over some heavy things during this podcast, but yeah, bringing it back to, yeah, the Bay Area might be expensive, but once you get into your routine and once you, figure out how to navigate resources, um, it is a nice place. And there's experiences that I have gotten there that I don't think I could get anywhere else. And even the curriculum that they teach the kids out there, it's different. People are different, trends are different, culture is different, diversity, ethnicity, it's all different out there. And it was really such a good experience to get that. And I will definitely miss it after I graduate and move back home and all that stuff. So yeah. Anybody else?
And with the whole exploring the city, I would say cautious. Be cautious with what areas you're going to. Always be aware of your surroundings. I would recommend not going alone sometimes, always have a friend with you. Um, it's just safety, you have to be careful. Carry your pepper spray if you have to. I would always carry my pepper spray. I got it taken away a couple times, but just some areas don't allow pepper spray, so they were like, oh, we have to take it. I was like, hey guys. But always be careful and just be aware of everything that's going on. No matter how safe you think it is, it might not be as safe.
Definitely. And again, I want to thank Judy and Dora for, having the courage and come on, and also, sharing your story and giving your time to us. A big part of this is, having staff come on, but also students. Students' voices are so important. And I think, Judy, your story is very unique because, you were kind of talking about all your everything that happened in housing, and how you finally got to settle with your roommates, and you love them, and you got to have a good time in the end. And then Dora, I think your story is really helpful too, because you gave us a perspective of what it's like to live at home, and what struggles come with that, but what also are the pros of living at home. And so I think both of your stories are so unique, and it's really such a joy to have both of you on, and to share your journeys with students. And I hope that anybody who's watching this can, identify with one of us, or if not all of us in some way. Again, because your story is unique to yourself, but there really can be so many commonalities between other people that you meet. So yeah, thank y'all for coming on. I think next week, hopefully, we're gonna have Kim come on and talk about not only her story but also financial aid, scholarship tips, and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, hopefully we get to have her on. If not, we'll have to makeshift something else. But I know that my team can help us transition to something else. So again, y'all, thanks for joining us and tuning in. We're your higher ed hot seat team, and we are excited to see y'all next week for episode 4. Have a great week, y'all. Bye.